Chloe Martinez. I'm a poet, a translator, and a scholar of South Asian religions. And I have a bunch of poems in this anthology that are translations of poetry by Mirabai. And I'm the author of a book of poems, an anthology of essays on writing and ADHD, and a forthcoming book of translations. The poet that I'm translating is the person who got me into translation, I think. I read her work in translation. I wanted to know more about it. I ended up learning languages and getting a whole PhD really because I wanted to know more about the world of this poet. And in the process, of course, I was drawn to translating her. Her name is Mirabai. She's a 16th century woman poet saint from North India who wrote these really beautiful, kind of angry, devotional, sassy, erotic, electric love poems to God. I've been learning languages and translating informally since I was in college, so probably 25 years. It's only in the last 5 years that I've been publishing translations and working toward this single project. A challenge that I've had in translating these particular poems is that they originate in an oral tradition and they're largely known in India in song form. And so when I was translating them, I kept thinking about how to get some artifact of the sung rendition into the written textual translation, which I think hasn't been done so much by translators in the past. I can't remember how I first heard about best literary translations. I think I might have come across it in the book fair at the AWP conference a couple of years ago when the first volume was out, and I bought it and took it home and I just devoured it. I was such a fan of these brief little selections and translators' notes that were introducing me to voices I would not have encountered otherwise. It's so exciting for me to have these translations in the new Best Literary Translations edition because I've been a fan of the series for a couple of years. I love the way it's put together, and it's really nice to see my work and the poet I'm translating being shared alongside work from around the world in such a beautiful format. When I first started translating these poems, I think I was a little bit worried that maybe they were niche. They're from hundreds of years ago, from this woman saint. They're talking about a particular religious experience that is very familiar in India, but that not everyone around the world is familiar with. And so I've been really surprised and delighted to find that people have responded so warmly and positively to these translations and to Mira, and have really, I felt like when they're encountering her through my translations, I feel that they're encountering the person I wanted them to meet. Both people who are new to Mira and have never heard about her before, and people who grew up with these songs, grew up with them being sung around the house, or saw, Mirabai has been portrayed in Bollywood films, and people have recorded albums of her songs, and she exists in book form as well, and you can find her in certain temples in India. So she's a really well-known figure. And so particularly I was concerned when I was first sharing these translations that people who had grown up with these poems might feel that these were not the right voice or were not the Mira that they knew and loved. And I've had a number of people with that background say to me, no, this is the right voice. I can hear her, I can see her and hear. And that's been amazing for me. I think translations are crucial in the world today. I think that we live in a time in which culture and identity and language are increasingly fragmented, especially in the US. Many people are monolingual and don't think outside the world of their own experience. And so anytime we can offer someone a great translation, we're offering them a window into another world of literature, another culture, another experience that isn't their own. I think also, I certainly see this with students, intergenerationally in the US, you have people who have strong connections We're such a nation of immigrants. So we have lots of people with strong connections to cultures that they didn't grow up in, but grew up attached to, right? Grew up in diasporic worlds, and so have maybe some language, but not full access. So I also think the work of translators is always the work of like remaking those links that are being kind of fragmented by the way we move around the world and live and relanguage. My advice to anyone getting their start in translation is, first of all, to just try it, to make that translation, even if you think maybe you're not the perfect person or someone else has already done another translation. You know, I waited for a long time to do these translations because I sort of thought someone else will do them. They're so important. Maybe I'm not the right one. And that time was useful for me because it gave me time to just spend with this figure I was translating and think about what was the right way to translate her and learn a lot about her. But I also think I was probably too careful and took too long. So I think translators should give themselves permission to translate, permission to take something that they love in another language and do that fragile and always imperfect and very personal and very creative work of making a new version in a new language. And they should share it with people, and they should talk to other translators, and they should get help. And they should think about the ways that translation puts them in community with other people, which I also think is a big part of sharing your translations, is you get to be in community around them. The first poem I'm going to read has the refrain happening in fragments, so you'll hear that. And Mirabai is singing about the god Krishna, who she sees as her beloved and her intimate, but he's often absent. So she's singing about love and devotion, and she's also singing about the inaccessibility of God, the impossibility of connecting with this entity who's other. But she's doing that in the kind of everyday language of the lover whose beloved is often away. This one's called Mira Wears God's Clothes. I thought, what if I went around dressed up as him? When I see his face blooming, willpower deserts me. What if I went? Could I take up his flute and staff, put on his yellow robe, wear his herder's clothes and crown, take the cattle out to graze? Disguised. Or else become a vine, growing from the soil in his village, with the birds and monkeys and the sages deep in conversation, couldn't I? My teachers, it's so hard to be conventional, how to even explain. Mira says, what if I met with my mountain-lifting Lord and stayed just like that with him? Second poem I'm going to read is called Mira in Rising Waters, and this one has the refrain coming through in different versions. So it's giving me a chance to do alternate translations, which is great because as a translator, one of the hardest things is choosing when you have so many great options sometimes. Mira in Rising Waters. The edge of my skirt is damp. It's the rainy season. You've gone off to a foreign country. My soul won't settle down. The edge of my skirt is wet. It's the summer clouds lowering season. I've written you letters, sent messages. Come back to my house, darling. The edge of my skirt is drenched. It's the holy season. Mira's man, mountain-lifting Lord, why don't you show up, tough guy? Let's do one more. Okay. One of the important pieces of Mira's hagiography, her kind of saintly life story, is that she's so devoted to Krishna that she basically is not doing her job of being a good Rajput wife. And she's part of a royal family. And according to the mythology, her family is so angry about this that they try to have her killed a couple of times. So she writes poems sometimes kind of talking back to that situation. And what happened in her life is eventually she did just sort of leave the kingdom, leave the royal household and go off to be with devotees, which made a lot of people upset. Mira's plan. I'll sing in praise of God. If the king gets angry, I can leave the kingdom. But if God's unhappy, where can I go? I'll sing. If my enemy sends me a poisoned cup, I'll drink it up like nectar in praise. If he then sends a little box with a viper inside, I'll consider it a natural form of the Lord. I'll sing. Mira says, I'm crazy in love these days. I won't marry anyone but God.
Fascinating.
Thanks.
Thank you so much.